Okay, guys, my question today is, are you guys a fan of natural tested powerlifting, or are you a fan of powerlifting as a whole more so? Is it off-putting to you that there are people who are potentially slipping through the cracks on gear who are competing tested? Is that off-putting? Like, is tested powerlifting off-putting to you, or do you not care? Do you see it more as like an accomplishment of just whatever someone lifts regardless of their status, or does it almost push you away from the sport that you're seeing such high numbers in tested lifting when in fact most of you are natural? Do you embrace that? Do you say, oh, that's awesome, somebody's, all these guys are pulling 800 pounds naturally, that gives me motivation? Or does it make you develop the attitude of like, why would I even compete when it's ridiculous and there's no way these people are natural? So I'm kind of just trying to get a feel for you guys, what you think. um, it's one of those things that is difficult for me to grasp a hold of as far as some of the things we're seeing. There's one IPF lifter in particular, I'm not talking about Ashton, who has ridiculous traps and has a build that is very similar to my build when I was like on my peak cycles. So this guy literally is like the same kind of build with the big traps, and he's got 3D delts, and it's just kind of I'm not going to say who, but I'm very skeptical of this. And you could obviously probably bring up a number of cases like this, but I just kind of want to get your guys' feel for, how do you feel about powerlifting in general and tested powerlifting? Like when you see these numbers and you see these lifts on Instagram and stuff, do you lean into the sport more? Does it get you excited about it? Do you want to support the sport and see even higher numbers, or is it kind of off-putting? And I have no idea what you guys are going to think, because I've gotten a general feel over the course of the past few months that people are very skeptical of tested powerlifting. And you can't even use the argument that there's some bias to this, because my viewership is 80% natural. And Lifting Vol just did a poll, and 90% of his viewership is natural. So the vast majority of people on YouTube right now, on these channels, I would say, are natural lifters. But the prevalence and access to PEDs and testosterone is higher than ever. 2010, back in those days, 2010 to 2015, you would have to work to get your hands on PEDs. It would take some work. You'd have to know some people. You'd have to get some connections. There was a lot more risk. Nowadays, it's much easier. Fine, there's relatively no risk for personal use. The prevalence is it's a lot more accessible. There's a lot more known about them. So I still think I'll echo the sentiment that the majority of tested powerlifting is natural. But I have no clue what that looks like when you get to the top portion, when you get to the top numbers, the top guys. Because I still go off, if we're just going off my experience of who I've worked with over the years. I've been coaching for over 9 years, going back to March of 2013. So over 9 years. And I have only had, I'd say out of, let's say a minimum 1,000 clients over the 9 years, I've had 10 guys maybe pull 700 plus. Natural or not, most of them, I don't even know if there was any natural. I want to say just about all of them were on gear, or testosterone at the very least. So, and then I've had one guy pull 800, and that's a 9-year history. So it's really interesting. Like, I've had natural guys in the sixes, mid sixes, but not really over that. That's just my anecdotal evidence. But I feel like that's a pretty good range. That's a pretty good amount of people that I've worked with to get that data. And then 400-pound natural benches, I have seen. I've had a few of those. Truthfully, I've had a few. Here's the interesting thing too. 400-plus natural benches, I've had way more of than 700-pound natural deadlifts, which, in fact, I don't even know if I've had a natural 700-pound deadlift from anyone. Like, I can't even think of one off the top of my head. But it's kind of interesting that I've had way more 400-plus pound natural benchers. Squat, 600-plus pound natural squatters, That's another one. I don't know if there are any. I don't know if I've had any. So it's kind of weird because it's like I'll have, you know, literally no one in 9 years. And you can say, well, P, you're not working with the top quality, the top caliber guys, I should say. And maybe that's true, but when I can't even think of anyone who, okay, I can think of one. I've had one who pulled 700 and actually squatted 700 naturally. That's it. One that I can think of. But even 600 plus pound squats, naturally, it's probably 2 or 3 that I've worked with. So these are very rare numbers. These are very elite numbers. But it makes me wonder because a lot of these top IPF people are already in that range. And when I look at the numbers coupled with the build, there's questions about the credibility of things. But really the point of this video is, what do you guys think? I'm curious about what your opinion is on tested powerlifting and powerlifting in general. Are you more interested in the sport now with the crazy numbers, or are you turned off by the lack of transparency and the potential fraud and all that sort of thing? Does that turn you off more, seeing the crazy numbers and knowing that that is not genetically possible for most of you? Is that off-putting? So that's really what it boils down to, because I just don't see it. When I actually take a step back and look at things objectively, the numbers I see on Instagram from natural lifters are just few and far between in reality. 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000. So it's interesting. And I wonder what you guys think. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, all the things. Appreciate you guys. We'll keep it coming.